Hello, friends. I'd like to talk to you today about sharing your faith. I think all Christians have that desire in their heart to share their faith, and yet we seem to be very intimidated at times to do so. So I'd just like to share a few thoughts with you in terms of preparing ourselves to go out and share our faith effectively. First of all, we need to go out in the power of the Holy Spirit. That means, in old-fashioned terms, to be prayed up, to spend time with the Lord, because after all, it is the work of the Holy Spirit that opens people's hearts. It's not our eloquence of speech, it's not our technique or any of that other thing, but it is the power of the Holy Spirit that brings people to an awareness of Christ. Second thing I would recommend is that we treat people as individuals. So often, some of the ways we approach evangelism is almost cookie cutter. It's kind of canned. Frankly, that wouldn't have impressed me, I don't think. In my days before Christ, someone had to speak to me as an individual. Jesus was a master at knowing his audience. When he spoke to Nathanael, he spoke something very unique to Nathanael. When he spoke to the woman at the well, he knew things about her. He connected with her at a very personal level. And in fact, that was one of the things that impressed her, is she said, he told me all things I've ever done. So when we approach people, let's remember that they are one of a kind, they're unique individuals, and treat them as such. And thirdly, to treat them with respect. You know, Paul the Apostle was a great evangelist, and he reminds us that we at one time were also deceived and being drawn away with different lusts of the flesh. And I think sometimes we develop this attitude that the world is stupid, sinners are stupid, and we're smart. But that's not the case at all, is it? The fact of the matter is, we're saved by the grace of God, and if it were not for the grace of God, we would still be spiritually blind. So let's remember that treating the lost with contempt or any kind of attitude like that, I think will prevent the grace of God from really flowing through us to them in the message. People will pick up our attitude toward them quicker than they'll pick up our message sometime. I would also encourage you to ask the right questions. Jesus, again, was a master at asking the right question. He began his dialogue with the woman at the well with, "Give me a drink of water." I've actually had times in my life where the Lord put me in a position of need, where I needed someone, whether they were saint or sinner, to pick me up or to help me in some way. I remember one time I was stranded. I'd gone out and ministered to a couple way outside of town, and on the way back had problems with the car, and I had to walk back in the middle of the night almost, and this couple picked me up, and they didn't know Jesus, and so I had an opportunity to share with them. Ask the right questions. Jesus asked the right questions. One of the questions I like to ask people is, who do you say Jesus is? That's a question Jesus himself asked his disciples. So ask the right questions and then listen. Remember, it's a dialogue and not a monologue. And then the last couple of things I would share with you is share the gospel. We need to prepare ourselves. Paul said, as much as is in me, I'm ready to preach the gospel to you at Rome as well. Don't be ashamed of the gospel. Equip yourself. Familiarize yourself with the old Romans road. Familiarize yourself with John 3:16 and verses like that, so that you can share with confidence. It's only a few verses that you really need to share the core of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So prepare, and when you do, share the gospel. There's so many false gospels out there, but share the gospel. Don't be ashamed of it. It's the power of God unto salvation. And lastly, don't be afraid to share your testimony. That keeps it real. That keeps it right down to where you live, and they can get to know you as well. Don't you? The world is not looking for perfect Christians. They're looking for sincere Christians. They're looking for Christians who live their faith, and they don't try to pretend like they're something they're not. And the word of your testimony is something nobody can take from you, nobody can deny, nobody can argue out of, no matter how great they may think they are at debating or that sort of thing. You know what God has done in your life, share it. Okay, well, this is Bill Fowler with Church Without Walls. God bless you.